Claude Code wrote a bud last month that would have wrong charged 40 invoices on a live client. It never shipped. A 180-line Guardrail file caught it in 4 seconds. If you're a solo operator running Claude Code against real paying customers, you already know the fear. 1 regression, 1 angry client email, 1 churn. Every viral Claude Code tutorial skips this part. They show the prompt, the demo, the deploy. They don't show what breaks in week 2. I'm Lazar. I ship Claude-written code to paying customers weekly. Here are the 3 files that make it safe. Let's open the first one. Here's the situation nobody warns you about. You watch a 4-hour Claude Code course. You spin up your first product. You get a client. Claude Code is writing features faster than you can review them. Week 1 feels like magic. Then week 2 happens. Claude refactors a function. The rounding logic shifts by 1 decimal. And suddenly your client's invoice total is off by €3. They notice. You don't. That's the bug that loses you the account. I've seen this pattern across every solo operator I've worked with. They treat Claude Code like a junior developer who's always right. It isn't. It's a junior developer who's confident, fast, and occasionally hallucinates business logic that looks correct on the surface. The Happy Path tutorials don't cover this because the people making them aren't shipping to paying clients. They're shipping to YouTube. So let me show you the 3 files I drop into every Claude Code project before I let it touch client work. First file, contract uxtests.pwines of Tythum, and it does one job. It encodes the 12 API behaviors the client actually paid for. Not unit tests of internal functions, not coverage metrics, but the literal promises. Invoice totals must equal sum of line items plus VAT. Webhook payloads must include the customer ID. Email send must return a message ID. 12 assertions, each tied to a real client expectation. When Claude Code finishes a change, this file runs. If any contract breaks, the commit is blocked, not flagged. Blocked. Claude cannot tell me it's done until all 12 pass. The trick here is keeping the list small and tied to revenue. If a behavior isn't something the client would notice and complain about, it doesn't belong in this file. I've seen people try to put 200 assertions in here and it becomes noise. 12 is the sweet spot for a single product. Second file, smoke evals.md. This one is different. It's not code. It's natural language. About 40 lines of plain English scenarios written the way a customer would describe them. Quote, when I upload an invoice with 3 line items and one of them is a discount, the total should subtract the discount before applying VAT, end quote. Then, Claude Code itself runs these scenarios against the changed code before I review. It writes a small harness that interprets each scenario, executes it, and reports pass or fail with the actual output. This catches logic drift, which is the most dangerous kind of bug Claude introduces. The code compiles, the unit tests pass, but the behavior shifted in a way no automated assertion would notice. By making Claude evaluate its own work against human-readable scenarios, you get a second pair of eyes that thinks the way your client thinks. I keep this file in the repo root, and I update it every time a client asks for something new. The file grows with the product. Third file, prod diffy.s. H, about 30 lines of bash. It pulls 10 real sample payloads from production, runs them through the staging build, and diffs the output against the last known good production output. Any field that change gets flagged. This is the safety net that catches what the first 2 miss. Sometimes a change is technically correct. All contracts pass, all scenarios pass, but the output format shifted, and the client's downstream system can't pass it anymore. The diff catches it because the bytes are different. I sanitize the payload so no real customer data sits in the repo, but the shape and edge cases are preserved. Now, how do these three files actually plug into Claude Code? I added a slash command called /verify. When Claude finishes a task, instead of saying done, it runs /verify. The command executes all three files in sequence. Contract tests first because they're fastest, then smoke evals, then prod diff. Total runtime is about 7 seconds. If anything fails, Claude reads the failure output and tries to fix it before bothering me. Most of the time it self-corrects. The ones it can't fix bubble up to me with a clear failure message, and I make the call. Let me give you the real example from last month. A small invoicing tool, live with paying clients, processing a few hundred invoices a week. I asked Claude Code to add support for a new VAT rate. Sounds simple. Claude wrote the change, ran /verify, and contract test number 7 failed. The assertion was, quote, total equals sum of line items plus VAT, end quote. Claude had introduced a rounding step that ran before the VAT calculation instead of after. On most invoices, the difference was 0. On invoices with 3 or more line items and a specific VAT rate, the total was off by 1 cent. 40 invoices would have shipped with the wrong total. Claude caught it itself, rewrote the rounding order, ran /verify again, all green. I reviewed the diff, approved, deployed. Client never knew anything happened. That's the loop. Across the products I run with this setup, the harness catches roughly 85% of Claude regressions before they reach me, and effectively 100% before they reach the client. 0 client-facing bugs since I added it. The other 15% are caught in my manual review, which is now fast because I trust the green checks and only look at the diff. Here's what I want you to take from this. The viral promise of running a one-person business with Claude Code is real, but only if you build the guardrails before you take the first client, not after. After is too late. After means you've already shipped the bug. Build the 3 files in the first week. Keep them small. Tie them to what your client actually pays for. Wire them into a / command Claude runs before it tells you it's done. That's the difference between Claude Code as a demo and Claude Code as the engine of a real business. If you want the templates for contract tests.py, smokeevals.md, and prod.stes, they're on the resources page at BizflowAI.io. Drop them into any Claude Code project and your client-facing bugs stop the same week. While you're there, check the case studies for the kind of automation and custom integration work we ship for solo operators and small teams. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next breakdown finds you. And if you've got a workflow you want built and guarded properly, book a free 30-minute discovery call at BizflowAI.io.